Welcome everyone to another episode of Spirit Inspired Conversation. This is episode number three. I'm so proud of us actually. Episode number three, we're well on our way. Today's title is going to be Why So Many People Feel Lost Today. I think that's a very important topic that we need to discuss. I'm your co-host Minra along with Dr. Linda. And you already know the vibes. You already know this is spirit led. We're just following the flow. So I'm gonna dive right into it, so much can be said about what's happening in the world today and about not just what is happening on a global spectrum, but as we just kind of break it down to the society, to the household, to the individual level, there's a lot of disconnection happening, and I think now more than ever, I think we're seeing it on the media, on social media, in so many different spaces where people have become so externally stimulated that they've somewhat lost touch with their sense of self. And based on our previous topic, which had to do with spirituality and spiritual awareness, which had to do with a more internal quest or pursuit, you know, it would seem as if we're more so focused on the external, pursuits. And this create this lost feeling that I think a lot of folks are experiencing because we're trying to essentially fit in or fit the script of other people of other external qualifiers or however you want to describe it, and not really looking at our own like internal gauge around what is important for us, or what we are aligned with. And so it is really important that we address this topic and see, if you're someone who is watching who feels lost within this time and feel disconnected really from your sense of self, sense of purpose or community, this episode really is for you. I'm sure Dr. Linda has some experience around this.
Oh, absolutely. One of the disconnects is living for approval instead of purpose. You know, um, and and also I find that that people are feeling like the things that they had turned to give them comfort, like maybe hanging out, going to the club, whatever, is no longer working. Um, and that's part of us being disconnected from our true selves. Many people spend their lives becoming who society expects them to instead of discovering who they really are. When I was teaching, sometimes a student's work would start to decline. And just for those who didn't see the previous episodes, I was an assistant professor at Howard University, and I was teaching. So again, sometimes a student's work would start declining, and I would call them into my office to find out what was going on. When I asked them if their field of study was what they really wanted to do, they would say no, but their parents wanted them to study this or that, and they felt that they had to go along with the program. And it was so disheartening because um, you know that people are often just not pursuing what their passion is. And then I've also asked when I ask people, what is your passion? They say, well, I said, what is it really that you want to do that brings you joy? They start telling me about what they would like to do in order to make money. Yeah, well, see, I'd like to do this, and but that wasn't what their true passion is. And finally, after a while, after it's like if you could do anything in this world without hindrances, without anyone stopping you, without any judgment, what is it that you would want to do? And finally, they would come out with what they were truly passionate about. And we bury that so deep, but our passions our divine guidance as to our helping with what our purpose is. So if we're passionate about something, then it is a an indicator of what we should be pursuing, what we should be putting our energy in, which is part of our purpose. Um, and that our purpose, I think, should be another discovering and understanding our purpose will be another podcast. But just planting the seed of we all come into this lifetime with a purpose that's already been predetermined. Um, and we can choose to pursue that purpose or get in touch with that purpose or not. We have a choice, but it is there for us. But again, that's another conversation. So, also, many people spend their lives becoming who society expects them to be. So, I'm going to tell a little bit of my story. So, I was born and raised in Detroit and went to Michigan State University and studied social science, whatever that was. My mother wanted me to go to law school. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was like, okay, well, that sounds something I might. She said, "You always like to argue and stuff, so you you would make a good lawyer." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So anyway, she had me applying to Harvard and Yale and Columbia, all these Ivy League schools. I had, like a high C cumulative grade point because I partied in school. I had a great time. So, and I'm not advocating people should do that, but that was just my path. And so I didn't get into any of the schools that she wanted me to get in. So I was like, okay, I've graduated. What do I do? And I felt all this pressure from her about, okay, well, we got to figure out what are you going to be doing? And I'm like, I need to figure myself out. I need to see who I am. And again, that was my inner guidance telling me to time to go, time to leave Detroit, time to go somewhere else to find who you are. And see, I was able to, instead of saying, no, I can't go, because I was a very shy person. It's like, no, I can't go to somewhere where I only know one person and, that's kind of scary. But no, I was like, hey, I got to go. And so I left. Everything worked out in terms of me, my housing and everything was a smooth transition. Um, and but if I had stayed in Detroit, I would have been living my mother's expectations, but not having the freedom and ability to explore myself and my passions. So, I just wanted to share, kind of my journey with that. And sometimes you got to just say, nope, I have to do this because this is my life. Oftentimes family members, parents, others who are significant in our lives have expectations for us. And we feel like we don't want to let them down, so we want to do what they feel like that they would want for us, and then we would make them proud and they would love us more, and we would feel better about ourselves. So all of these kind of issues come together. But if it's doing something that does not resonate with you, then that is a whole nother can of worms, a whole nother set of issues that are not supporting you, and in the long run cause all sorts of other kinds of physical, emotional issues if we're not pursuing our passion. And, from childhood, we're conditioned to seek approval. And and in many cases, approval comes with some type of reward. So we're pushed to succeed, and that success can stem from a negative behavior. We strive for status in our jobs, among our families, friends, and peers. Even the guy or the girl out there selling drugs. I mean, they are maybe seeking approval from their peers. So there's reinforcement for that for that behavior and that path. So and people that join gangs and what is required. And I am no expert, it's not my lane about gangs, but from my understanding, it's the um, need for a group of people who support you and approve of you, but you have to do some things in order to get that approval, which is, again, as I was saying, we're conditioned for that. Or someone's on social media and they get thousands of views on a social media post. Hey, look at so and so's post. Yeah, they got it going on. So, I mean, we're really driven by approval. Um, the need for validation from outside of ourselves. And while encouragement is healthy, problems can arise when our self-worth depends on other people's approval. And it can cause issues. And I just I think about how often, you know, say for instance, you get 10 compliments, but those 10 compliments can be erased by one criticism. And it's so crazy. It's just so insane, but that's what happens. You're all bumping on, oh yeah, you're looking, or this is that. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know about that. And then you go, oh no, what's going on with me? Oh, perhaps I should. See, we question ourselves over one criticism. So, yeah, a person can receive overwhelming praise and still focus on a single and negative comment. And that's why social media can get so crazy. And that's why I hesitated for a long time to even go out on social media because I didn't want to deal with the comments that I may be getting for expressing my thoughts and feelings about something that I felt would be helpful to people. So I had to sit down and say, okay, if this is part of my purpose, then it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what people think about um, me, what I'm saying, how I'm presenting. The point is, I'm supposed to be doing this. And because I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm going to do it regardless of the feedback, because I know it's going to be helping some people somewhere. So, yeah, so some for me, honing in and connecting with my purpose helps me overcome the fear of not getting approval for what I'm doing. Um, yeah, and breaking free from others' expectations or judgments can require, again, courage because people may not understand why you are changing. Some of my conversations now with my friends are totally different from what they used to be. And sometimes I hesitate. Should I say this? Should I mention this? Because I don't know how they're going to receive me. But again, part of my purpose is sharing my information that I have come to understand to be of a spiritual nature. So it's like, hey, whatever, I'm going to just put the information out there. So by finding ourselves, instead of being so lost, requires us to honor our inner truth, even when others disagree. So what you think about that, Minra?
Take myself off mute. Yeah, no, that was definitely a very, very insightful and, powerful message. It definitely says a lot to what a lot of different people in different phases of their lives, definitely might be facing. And like you were saying, at the end of the day, we do tend to lose ourselves sometimes in the mix of pursuing what others want for us. And a lot of this, a lot of times, unfortunately, like you described, it starts from when we're very young. It starts from our childhood experiences. It starts from our childhood circumstances. Like for me, I can briefly share, like, like I mentioned in the previous episode, like I didn't grow up with my father being there. And so I feel like, and it took me years to understand these things. And that's the thing that we also have to acknowledge is a lot of the tendencies that we might have with respect to how we approach life and why we might feel lost, it will be tied to our childhood, and it might take time for these things to unfold. And it's one of those situations where as you grow, it's like you're peeling away the petals of a flower, or you're peeling away layers of something. It's like you're peeling off one layer, but there's another layer. And it keeps there are more and more and more layers that you kind of have to keep peeling to get to the core issues around why you're feeling the way you're feeling. But again, a lot of it tends to stem from unresolved issues from our childhood. So for me, with not having my father there, I feel like this impacted me in a way that I tended to be a people pleaser in a way. And so looking to be accepted and looking to do things as well as I could, or be the best person or the nicest guy or the most astute young man or whatever it was, whether at school or at church or whatever the case was, in seeking that approval, it's somewhat of an effect of not feeling like I was accepted by my father. And we might not, again, this is something that I didn't think about this until now, and I'm in my 30s now. So it's like these things can take a lot of time to really process. And and what I've observed with the process also is that you might not be able to get the answer really until you're in a very grounded and very safe and peaceful state of being, because we're a lot of the times caught up in the hustle and bustle, in the doing whatever we can to make the money and not really being in tune with ourselves. And so the more disconnected we are from ourselves, the harder it is for our intuition to kind of lay on our spirit or lay on our hearts, like what's really going on inside, because we're masking all of that with all the external gratification or the short-term gratifications that are making us feel good, because we keep avoiding the core things by doing all the other things externally. We're not going within at all. So all of this, it does, as we spoke about a little bit in the last episode, it takes a willingness to be brave. It takes a willingness to because you might be thinking the feeling loss, it's like it like going to pursue the inner workings is like so much worse than the loss, the state of being lost and all that. But no, in truth and in fact, like the more you understand yourself, and the more you do that internal work, really, the I would say the more at peace you are, and the more that lost feeling kind of begins to dissipate more and more, because you become grounded in not belief but knowing. It's like there is a true knowingness within you about who you are, about who, what your purpose is, what you're aligned with, and that's within you. And only you can speak to that truth. So it's not about believing it. It's just you just feel it in your DNA, like in your bones, as they would say. And and that's again something as subtle as that might seem, is very profound in everyone's individual journey, and it really should not be overlooked. So going back to what Dr. Linda was saying also about just kind of living to kind of just please others or to gain approval, you really have to look at the core of what is behind that and where it's really coming from. Whatever the tendencies are around that, like what is really the root of this? Like what circumstances have I been through that has really triggered me to be behaving like this? And this is not just applicable to feeling lost, it's applicable to all aspects of your life, all issues of your life that you might be encountering. So you want to really be graceful with yourself and to realize that, the things that are happening in your life, it's not it's not as a result of external issues or external factors. They are just internal things that are happening inside you that you have to face, that you have to deal with, that you have to address in order to create a different external outcome, you know. And that's very important to come to realize or to come to address or to speak to. Um, I don't know if you wanted to say something. I saw your face, Dr. Lynn. I'm not sure if you
No,
wanted to
no,
say
no,
something.
no, no.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I got you. I got you. You look like you were like ready to say, I was like, all right, let me see, let me see.
No.
But
No, I was just going to, um, I was thinking about the overstimulation of social media and how that contributes to what we've been talking about. And I had previously talked about how in episode 2 how spirituality has moved, how social media has helped bring awareness around spirituality, but it's also kind of contributed to the disconnect because we start comparing ourselves to others. When we see people on social media looking a certain way or talking a certain way, and you go, wow, how does she look like that? And oh, how come I don't look like that? And what can I do? And da, da, da. Not knowing that oftentimes there's so many ways to touch up pictures and make you look a certain way. And even people you think, oh, they have all this deep knowledge. I was listening to someone yesterday. Someone sent me a text about this guy, and he was talking about some things that were going on, and he was citing something that was happening. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And he cited well, I don't want to go into the details of it, but he cited a quote about it that I decided to research. And what he said was totally not true. And I was like, this is crazy. He just sounded so legit. We really have to check what we're seeing on social, what people are telling us. We have to research what they're saying. If we feel like it might be real impactful on our lives, we need to be aware of a lot of more and more. There's artificial intelligence, so a lot of AI generated posts that we see that we have to learn how to discern what's AI and what's not. Not to say that AI generated content isn't valid, but it could be kind of shady at times. So we just have to be much more astute and not, turn our energy or our power over to social media influencers because we're the power, not other people, not people outside of ourselves. We are individually, we are the power. So, yeah, learning to connect with self is so important. And again, one of the precepts of this podcast is to help you connect back with yourself, with your inner self, with your spiritual self. So we look forward to doing that.
yeah, 1,000%. And as Dr. Linda was saying that whole thought about reclaiming your power, you have to also bear in mind that um, where your attention goes, that's where energy flows, right? So I don't know if you guys have ever heard that saying before, but when you're directing your attention to things, that's where your conscious state of energetic focus goes to. So if your energy is going to where you're putting your intention or your focus, then it is in a way that you're giving your power over to that entity or that thing, whatever it is. So you want to be really guarded with where you're giving your attention or where you're giving your energy to. Because yeah, it in effect will have impact on you if you're really giving all of your energy to something and believing it and trusting into it And like Dr. Lynn was saying, not, discerning or really coming from a place of alignment regarding that specific topic or whatever it is that you're seeing or viewing or listening to. So it really, really, really becomes super important to hold space for yourself to find that alignment within yourself. Or, what also helps is, which I think is like super, super important and it's lacking no more than ever as a result of, technology because like I'm Jamaican, so for me, like coming from a communal space in Jamaica, even like I grew up in a scheme, so is equivalent to just a little town era, where where the homes are and stuff, so it's a community. So you're used to seeing people, you're walking by, you're saying hi, good morning, you're greeting, you're smiling, all these normal gestures and societal mannerisms that you'd think is typical. It's not typical in the US per se. Well, maybe in the South, but you know, it's different here. And so with having technology now, especially amongst young people, like you never to get a good afternoon or to get their attention away from the technology, it's like it's and parents give their babies tablets like from the get-go. So it's like their energy gets essentially taken up by all this external stimulation, and there is going to be an effect to that on your social capacity, on how you connect with others, and it affects your ability to then equally form a community because you're going to feel like you can get whatever you need, whatever stimulation you need, whatever excitement you need from that particular gadget device or whatever the case is. So then it does become important to bear in mind that, you you don't want to be overstimulated by, social media or by the different things that you're giving your attention to. But really stay true to being aligned with what is within you by doing the meditations and different things like that can help kind of balance the scale around that. But the last thought around that topic too was that about the community. I feel like it is important that you find yourself in some form of a community or a space where you can express yourself, be true in your expression of who you are, and feel accepted and allow for that genuine expression. um you know Especially I'd encourage in a very conscious environment. That would be very good so for your own personal development and also for you to be able to connect with others. So not just connect through an app or connect, on social media or whatever the case is, but to actually have in-person interactions with other people and really be human, just be human. So yeah, I just wanted to really add that element of having the community. And all being well, spirit inspired conversations will have its community and we'll have events and discussions, maybe in-person discussions over time. So, you guys can definitely participate on that level as things evolve as well.
Well, Nimrod,
So
do you have a word for us today?
yeah, I do. I was going to get to that in just a moment there. Let me see. So I will share the thought for today, which is somewhat of an affirmation. So I will say it reads rather, I reclaim my time, my peace, and my presence. I choose real connection, inner clarity, and a life that exists beyond the screen. So I'll repeat that affirmation that you can say for yourself, or even when I'm saying it, you can just, tune into it and let it flow within you if you'd like. So I'll read it one more time. It says, I reclaim my time, my peace, and my presence. I choose real connection, inner clarity, and a life that exists beyond the screen.
All right. I love that. I absolutely love that. And so the more we if we connect to that affirmation, it's nice to be able to repeat it as often as possible because that begins to program our thinking around that. which changes our behavior around that. And if that affirmation, those words don't exactly hit for you, then create something else. If you're feeling like, oh, I need to wean myself off of social media or take a break, use that affirmation or create one like it to kind of help you along with that process. So we're getting toward the end of the podcast. And again, we're doing small bites of information. So I'd like to do a closeout breathing exercise. So, what I'd like for you to do is close your eyes and we're gently inhaling through our nose and expanding the belly, just taking a deep breath and just bringing it all the way up to the top of the head, and then exhale peace. Exhale that your body is peaceful. Have that thought while you're exhaling. So when you're inhaling it, you're taking your next breath, you're expanding your stomach, and you're sucking the air all the way up to the top of your head. And as you exhale, remind yourself, I don't need external validation. Everything I need is already within me. And let's do it one more time. Just one big, deep belly expanding breath, opening up your rib cage to the top of your head and exhaling. I don't need external validation. Everything I need is already within me. All right.
Thank you so much for that exercise, Dr. Linda. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another amazing episode of Spirit Inspired Conversations. We really hope this conversation inspired you, to take action in your life, around if you're feeling lost, to really try to connect with yourself. Stay tuned for the next episode. Again, we're going to be posting weekly. So if you have thoughts, comments, that you want to share, be sure to share that in the comment section. We will be reading for future episodes as well. And if you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to subscribe and check us out for the next episode. All right. So you guys take care.
All right. Peace out.
Peace, guys.